Oluchi lay in her room, drifting off to sleep. She had left her door open, as she often did when she was alone. That night something terrible happened. Ibuka, the young man who had seemed so kind, slipped into Oluchi's room. At first Oluchi was confused. Then came the terror. Ibuka's hand, once so gentle, now clamped down over her mouth as he pounced on the young girl. Oluchi tried to scream, but the sound was muffled. The violation that followed left her trembling, unable to process the horror of what had just happened. When it was all over, Ibuka hissed in her ears, "If you tell anyone, I will hurt you in a way that no one will ever suspect. Your parents are never home anyway. Who will protect you?"
Nwakaego and Ifechukwu had everything they dreamed of. That their marriage was full of joy, and their careers were thriving. Nwakaego held a prominent position as the manager of a highly respected firm, and Ifechukwu owned a booming frozen livestock business, drawing customers from all over the city. Together, they built a life of comfort, with a home that was filled with laughter and love. At a year into their marriage, they had a disagreement. One evening, Ifechukwu was preparing to dress up when he searched for a missing cufflink. As he rummaged through a drawer in their room, he stumbled upon a variety of pills. Curious, he examined them and realized they were contraceptives his wife, Nwakaego, had been secretly taking to prevent pregnancy. Shocked and furious, Ifechukwu felt betrayed. He had always believed that her inability to conceive was due to medical issues, unaware that she had been deliberately avoiding pregnancy. When Nwakaego arrived home from work that evening, Ifechukwu confronted her. She was startled, realizing her secret had been uncovered. Apologetic, she explained that she had been taking the pills because of her demanding job. A promotion was on the horizon, and she feared that getting pregnant would jeopardize her career advancement. Ifechukwu, still angry, couldn't believe she had prioritized her career over starting a family. "Why would you choose a job over us?" he asked, deeply hurt. Nwakaego, full of remorse, promised to forfeit the promotion and focus on building their family. A year later, they welcomed a beautiful baby girl, Oluchi, into their lives. As the years passed, success grew, but so did the demands of their careers. With each promotion, Nwakaego spent more hours at the office, attending endless meetings and late-night conferences. Ifechukwu's business flourished, and he found himself away on business trips more often than he was at home. Their once lively home became quieter, with fewer moments of shared laughter and joy. Oluchi, now 10 years old, was a bright and imaginative girl. However, the busyness of her parents' lives slowly began to affect her. They loved her, but their focus had shifted almost entirely to work. When she tried to talk to them about her day, they brushed her off. That if she asked for help with her schoolwork, they dismissed her with promises to help later, a word that seems to stretch endlessly. "Please, Mama, I don't understand this math," Oluchi had said one evening after school, holding up her exercise book. "Oluchi, not now, Dad. I just came back from work. Can't you see I'm tired?" "Ask your father," Nwakaego replied, barely glancing up from her phone. But Ifechukwu was no different. "We'll talk later, my dear. Did I have a lot of things to sort out," he would say, always preoccupied with calls and business matters. As time passed, Oluchi's grades plummeted. Teachers sent note home, but they remained largely unread at AT school. Her teacher noticed that she had started sitting alone at lunch. She barely spoke and was always lost in thought. Her teacher reached out to her parents, but the couple assured the teacher that they were working on it, though in truth, they barely paid attention.
Then one afternoon, Nwakaego and Ifechukwu made an announcement that would change Oluchi's life forever. "We'll be traveling a lot for work in the next few months," Nwakaego said. "So, we've hired someone to stay with you. He's a nice young man, and you'll be in good hands." Ibuka, the house help, arrived a few days later. At first glance, he appeared kind and gentle, always with a quiet smile. Oluchi didn't know how to feel about having a stranger in the house, but she trusted her parents' judgment. Little did she know that this trust would soon be shattered. One evening, while her parents were away on yet another business trip, Oluchi lay in her room, drifting off to sleep. She had left her door open, as she often did when she was alone. That night something terrible happened. Ibuka, the young man who had seemed so kind, slipped into Oluchi's room. At first Oluchi was confused. Then came the terror. Ibuka's hand, once so gentle, now clamped down over her mouth as he pounced on the young girl. Oluchi tried to scream, but the sound was muffled. The violation that followed left her trembling, unable to process the horror of what had just happened. When it was all over, Ibuka hissed in her ears. "If you tell anyone, I will hurt you in a way that no one will ever suspect. Your parents are never home anyway. Who will protect you?" Oluchi, shattered and terrified, said nothing. When her parents returned the next day, she couldn't bring herself to greet them. She stayed in her room, curled up in fear. Her parents noticed her absence, but assumed she was in a bad mood. They didn't bother to check on her. Days turned into weeks, and Oluchi's fear grew each time her mother asked her to fetch Ibuka for one reason or another. Her heart pounded whenever she was in the same room as the house help, but she didn't know how to tell her parents. They had never been there for her before. Why would they believe her now? At school, things got worse. Oluchi couldn't concentrate. She often slept through classes, her mind a fog of fear and confusion. One day, in the middle of a lesson, she wet herself. Her classmates burst into laughter, and she ran out of the classroom in tears. The headmistress, Mrs. Ozioma, was called. She gently asked Oluchi what had happened, but the girl just wept, unable to find the words to explain the trauma she had endured. The incident at school became more frequent. Each time, Oluchi found herself wetting her clothes, a clear sign that something was deeply wrong. Mrs. Ozioma became concerned and called Nwakaego and Ifechukwu for an urgent meeting. "You need to take her to the hospital," Mrs. Ozioma urged them. "This isn't normal." At the hospital, the doctor conducted several tests and returned with devastating news. "Your daughter has sustained injuries that indicate she's been sexually assaulted. We need to perform surgery immediately to repair the damage." Nwakaego and Ifechukwu were in shock. How could this have happened? They broke down, weeping at the thought of their precious daughter being harmed. But when they tried to ask Oluchi who had done this to her, she was too scared to speak. The doctor suggested bringing in a therapist. A kind woman named Adeona arrived, speaking gently and soothing to Oluchi. "You are safe now," she said softly. "No one will hurt you again. You can tell me what happened, and I will protect you." After much reassurance, Oluchi finally spoke. Her voice shook as she described what Ibuka had done to her. Adeona, deeply moved, promised the girl that she was safe now and that no one could ever harm her again. When Adeona informed her parents of what had happened, they were devastated. Nwakaego collapsed into tears, holding Oluchi and apologizing over and over again for not being there when she needed them the most. "I'm so sorry, Oluchi," she whispered through her sons. "I should have been there for you. I should have protected you." Furious, Ifechukwu stormed home, ready to confront Ibuka. But when he arrived, he was nowhere to be found. Sensing that his secret had been uncovered, Ibuka had fled, disappearing to another state to hide. The police launched a manhunt to track him down. Meanwhile, Ifechukwu and Nwakaego placed a 1 million naira reward on a local broadcasting station, offering it to anyone who could provide information on Ibuka's whereabouts. One evening, Ifechukwu received a call from a man claiming to have spotted Ibuka in Obodoma. The police quickly traced the lead, and after a tense search, they managed to capture and arrest him. Ibuka was brought back to Omakogi police station, where Ifechukwu, still seething with anger, confronted him. "How could you do this to my daughter? You monster," he yelled, her voice shaking with fury. Ibuka had bowed, pleaded for forgiveness, insisting it was the devil's work. But his words fell on deaf ears as the weight of his betrayal hung heavily in the room. As the family tried to piece together their broken lives, a child rights activist came to visit them in the hospital. "You both failed your daughter," she said bluntly. "You have been so engrossed in your work that you didn't even notice what was happening to her. You don't deserve to parent her." The activist gave them an ultimatum. Attend an intensive parenting program for a month, or risk losing custody of Oluchi. Determined to make things right, Nwakaego and Ifechukwu agreed without hesitation. They threw themselves into the program, attending every session and learning how to prioritize their daughter over their careers. During this time, they never left Oluchi's side at the hospital. They watched as she slowly began to heal, both physically and emotionally. Each day, They showed her more love and attention, proving to her that they were there for her, no matter what. After completing the program, the activist returned with good news. "You have passed the course," she said, "and your parental rights have been restored." Nwakaego and Ifechukwu were overjoyed. Oluchi, too, had begun to let go of her fear, knowing that her parents were now finally present in her life. On her 13th birthday, they threw a grand celebration in her honor. It was not just a birthday party, but a celebration of their family's rebirth. Nwakaego and Ifechukwu made a vow that day. They would never let work come between them and their daughter again, and from that moment on, they lived happily, with their hearts and home now firmly anchored in love and togetherness.
Thank you, lovelies, for watching this exciting tale. What lessons did you learn from this tale? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on my latest story. Bye for now.